let's talk herd. So yeah, it's great to have you here. And yeah, I didn't sort of think up questions because I just want it to be a conversation and I just want us to connect. And so I'll just start by saying that I really admire you. I've always really admired just your whole kind of approach and how much you have going on in your life. I just find that really kind of impressive. And your family is just amazing. And also, like the way that you kind of preserve your individual personality, not personality, but yourself, as well as your children. So I find that really fascinating. So yeah, I just wanted to say that before we...
Yeah. And I was thinking about how we connected and how I feel like it must have been through Sharon. You had come and done a clinic for her down at her place in Texas. And I feel like I started following your work from that. And she was really resonant with it. And I loved the things that she had shared, that you had shared when you were there. And then stayed connected and followed your work after. And just have, just a deep appreciation for the exploration in your way, and from that like unique, I want to say lens, but thing that what is you moves through, into the world, and how that moves with the horses. I see such a similarity in how the horses hold both of us so much in our own ways, but yet it's like the horse is almost like if I see through the horse, kind of shares their lens in a way, and it's just all. And the horse has always been everything. And I've wondered that about you, like if the horse was always like such a everything in your life.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, they really are. And it does cause friction sometimes, especially with my husband. I mean, I don't like to say friction because I think that's a bit, it's just kind of because for him, he would maybe, I mean, he has his children living in America and we live here. So that's difficult. And there is a sort of issue of separation. And I kind of feel like there's no way that I could even consider not being the support system for those horses. And it's not just any horses, it's kind of them because they've come into my life. And obviously, I think, we've both had horses for kind of a long time and they come and go. But it's like there's just this journey that's becoming refined. And it's just so strange to think. But I can't imagine a life here on this earth without them. And I think if they move on and when they move on, and, it can be different. And it will probably be different, and there'll be less, of a sense of being. But yeah, it really is that for me. And I feel like it's maybe, selfish, but it doesn't even kind of come to that. It's kind of like, I just don't even consider anything else. So yeah, and it's not even that it would be, because I have a lot. I mean, you lose animals, and I've lost ones that have been so deep, especially dogs. And because I haven't had children, so they're kind of that for me. And I've been able to really let that go and not hold, not have a big pain body about that and hold on to that. But this thing with the horses, it's not even really about our lives, our physical bodies, and it's about this path. And yeah, it's just so kind of, it's kind of not necessarily all consuming, but it comes first for sure. And yeah. So yeah, you were saying that I remember Sharon talked about you, and she was really kind of, at the time she was really inspired because you were doing the soul sister. You were I think you were going to rescue them or pick them up, and it was a long journey, and yeah, and for me it's almost like you are more, I mean, I don't want to compare because it's not like that, but it feels like the way that you kind of express yourself is a bit more kind of, no, I want to think of the right word, but it's kind of more impressive in a way, because you do things and you just do these incredible things, like these journeys, and and I've had hints of that, like when Karamba came in the trailer, and it was just amazing how it worked. But I just love to see how you just make it real. You bring it into, like, from the source energy, you bring it into reality. So I think that's really your gift, So it's just, I just love watching how that, because it's the same thing with your wellness programs and things like that as well. It feels like you're really, like, I kind of think I'd love to do that. I'd love the kids, to come but you're doing that. So I think, it's inspiring. It is really inspiring.
I don't, trying to think of like how to put words, like what's your, well, for one, I mean, that every time I've looked at anything you've shared of your work, I mean, I've had a similar feeling inside of me of just the beauty, the magnificence of it. Wow. And it's almost a little like, and there's some other, I mean, there's not a lot, but I have a select kind of small handful of what I'm now seeing as kind of like matching pictures. And it's not exact. It's not like they're exact matching pictures, of course, but there's a quality and I'll find that there's an aspect of and I feel this with you, and I feel this with a few others, and there'll be a different aspect of each of the person that I have this matching picture with, and the way that I feel it can show up in different ways, and one of those ways is certainly inspiration, to feel this, like, sometimes emotion, like the beauty of it, the resonance. But there can also be with that, and I don't know why it just came up with me a little when you said the word, whatever word it was, about like more impressive, like that. There can be that feeling of like, if I'm going to see this matching picture as more impressive, then it puts me in a position of less, and it feels and it hurts. It hurts. Yeah. Like sometimes I find that my most matching pictures hurt. And I used in some,
I totally resonate.
For a while, and there's been times with some situations where I would get distracted by that hurt, and I mean, it can show up as envy even. I mean, that word certainly applies in some situations. I'm not saying it I mean, I certainly have and what I've found is that when I recognize that it's actually something that I'm seeing that's inside of me, that I'm recognizing in the other person, that is that it, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just really agree. Yeah, and absolutely agree with that. It is something, it's almost like there needs to be, I feel for me when I feel like that I need to kind of shift my perspective, because I'm not really seeing it the way I could, or my inner being sees it. I'm seeing it more from a kind of a ego kind of aspect, like more competitive, or something that's just not genuine, and or feeling less than, like you say. So yeah, it's really finding that shift in perspective and how you can. And then I think then you kind of understand even more of what you're observing. It's like there are more dimensions to understand. Yeah. But you have to see it from the right place, and I think that's what really is fascinating. That's what's amazing about coming together, like the whole soul herd. What it means for me is that we don't have to feel like that anymore, that we're all on the same page, and that and we don't even have to be the same. Like, there's something, I mean, I'm just talking for me, but there's something about when you're not quite doing quite the same thing, or following quite the same because you can't anyway, because your inner guidance is always going to be different. But when you just feel that sort of disparity, there's a sense of threat, and I really want, for me personally, that's really what this is for me about, is really being able to let that go and just love what everyone is doing, and the beauty in it.
Yeah.
Because I know personally I did used to be quite fanatical about the right way, which is kind of really doesn't make any sense at all.
Oh yeah, that's kind of goes into a whole other, not other, but right and versus right and versus right. But I also, with the thing that I found when I feel this matching picture, and it comes with an emotion of that hurts. I usually find that in me, if I go inside of me, that there's something there's somewhere I'm not free. There's somewhere that I am not allowing myself to be free in. And the only way that I can see it is through seeing this thing that's lit up in me from seeing something that's not me in the other person, but yet somehow aligns in some way. And then I find that if I and when I allow myself to do the thing that I was really wanting to do, and feeling called to do, whatever we want to call that from inside, that soul thing that's just there. When I give myself the freedom to go there, then I don't. Then the other stuff just fades. Then I can appreciate the beauty in all these matching pictures, and I can see it from this place of not. It's not that the ego isn't there, but I'm not like. I'm just not speaking from the ego. I'm like, the ego has served its purpose to come in and say, hey, there's an aspect of you here that you have allowed to, get stuck. And so you need to, and for me, recently that's been a huge thing with Magic, with our, Mustang that I've recently like really dove back into riding her. I mean, man, that was a huge, I stepped so far away from working with her in the way I'm working with her now, and more, and there were many reasons for that, and I needed to do that. But somehow along the way, I started thinking that it wasn't okay for me to actually explore my relationship with her in a way that might look too much like training. Because that was like not right. That's not free enough for the horse, and just all these things that I started taking on. And I'm like not wanting to have any whips in sight. Like, Lord help, don't let somebody see a whip, because that means I'm beating on her, when Magic wants me to use it. Like, because I can touch one little spot and she knows exactly the spot. Whereas if my whole hand or foot, it's a larger piece of area on her body. It's that simple. And she loves that kind of, but it brings up, so that I could get off on so many tangents. But I have allowed myself, she loves the precision. I love the precision. It's a single pointed meditation. Sabina's the first one that shared that way of looking at meditation with me, and I've always held it so dear, because it is one of my most sacred places to go, that single pointed meditation of precision within the horse. Which can seem like the opposite of meditation and it just, so when I allow myself to really go there, then I can look at things that I see you do and that I see other people do, and I can feel the matching pictures. I can feel the resonance, and I can feel the freedom. Like, oh, you posted a picture of you on honey, and I said, oh my gosh, it just feels so free. Like, the timing for me was right at the same time that I was riding Magic again and doing things again in our way. And that was very much an example of a matching picture, but from a place of freedom, not, oh, she's doing this and I'm not letting myself, because it doesn't really look exactly what like she's doing, so maybe it's not okay. And I just let that go, and I'm still letting it go. It's a process of letting it go.
No, that's just, even when you talk about that place of that freedom place, it's just so kind of so strong, and it really resonates. And I think it can be, it's like you say, it's at every stage of your process. I remember, because it reminds me of when I did a British Horse Society exam like years ago, and it was like a really not difficult, but it had like a lot to it, and it was really like, I put a lot of effort into going back over to Britain and doing this exam. And, it was so it was very traditional, and it's very, kind of ridiculous. But, I really took it on board, and I, really went there. And it was at the time when it was, everybody rode the horses with spurs and with whips, and it was, and they were all shod, and it's all very, a completely different world in a way from where I am now. But I put everything into that exam, and then when I thought that it went really well, and the teaching bits of it went really well, and the cross country bit went amazingly well, and it was just, I was on a real high from that, and even my knee bandage was really great. And so when I came back and I waited for the results, and I got the results, and I'd literally failed every single part of it, and I was so upset about it. And so it kind of turned out that the issue was that I hadn't trained with anybody. And you're supposed to go and train with somebody who is what's the word, who's kind of qualified, and who's part of the system. And if you don't put that on your form, then you don't pass. That's the bottom line of it. And they would probably deny that, but it's kind of true. And so then after I got over feeling really, really bad about it and like a failure, I just had this, like, I kind of went to the arena and I just had this overwhelming realization. My God, I'm free. I don't have to do anything like that anymore. It just, it felt wrong and it was wrong for me. And there was just so much limitation about it. And that was, I think, probably the most liberating time. It's just such a strong, powerful experience that I don't think I've forgotten that. Just, wow, you can really listen to this, your heart, and it's what you're saying. That's the only thing that matters. And I think that's why these days I feel a bit shy about, being a trainer or being even somebody who, I want people to follow me, because I feel everybody needs to follow their own heart, really. That's where I am just now. And I think, I'm sure there's there's lots of space for facilitating and, and being in that place with people, but you just can't, nobody can ask anybody not to follow their heart. And I think that's what the horses really, that's what they help us with.
It's everything. It's everything to me. It's everything it's so much that it's been hard. It's so important to me, and therefore, I want it for others. And when there's others that, especially when it has to do with a horse, when the horse is the path or a part of the path for someone, I find myself, especially people that I feel a resonance with, just really having a craving for them to bathe in that place of, this is your own heart. I mean, my email is hear your own heart. Like, it's been my mantra I've held to. And it's been hard because when there's times that I have felt someone fall into those same places that I fall into, of feeling belittled or like their way. I mean, I cannot tell you how much I feel is that every bit of the way that you do things with the horse is absolutely right. Okay? Every bit of the way I do things with the horse is absolutely right. Yeah. And I know that there's things that you and I do differently. Now, neither one of us are out there doing like hard things, but there are different approaches. And then that can go for someone perhaps that doesn't ride at all. Okay? I mean, there's so many glorious ways of the horses showing us the way, and they know because they see us through everything, and so they can totally take us there in the unique way that we need to go. And it's everything inside of me, for people to just feel that and just be held in that is so not only enough, it is more than enough. It's everything. I mean, like if you don't ever ride and you are and you connect in a place of meditation and a place where, I mean, we could go in so many different models of what's right. That too is right. No, I think back to the thing that first feel, the places that I can get stuck in feeling that someone else's reality is not good enough for them is when I'm not giving myself the freedom to live mine from the most free place. Yeah. And as soon as I give myself that freedom, I then just see the beauty in everything that they're doing. And I'm not as attached to whether I perceive that they see it that way or not. Because who am I to say how they see it anyway? But I can get attached to that because it's like, I want you to know you're so awesome. What you do is so beautiful. Don't belittle what, I get in this place of wanting to convince the other. And it's totally been my go-to.
Yeah.
When I used to drink, and I used to drink really heavy, that was my thing. I went around and told everyone how amazing they were, and just like tried to make them feel like the most beautiful, wonderful person in the world, because all I could see was how beautiful they were, which this could get me in a lot of trouble, because I did this in many ways. But I still, that is my, that's where my bleeding heart will come out. And so I just have to take it back inside.
Yeah.
And say, where is the knot inside of me? Where am I not allowing myself to be free? And and that can be really hard, because it can look like doing the right thing. Because living as a free being often doesn't look like it can look selfish. It can look very selfish in some ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's really true. I think we have to let go of this this kind of fear that we have of being selfish, because we are individuals, and if we don't care about ourselves, then it's not logical that we should care about other people more, because it just doesn't make sense, because we're the only ones who can know what's right for us. And we're the only ones who can truly love ourselves in that way. And I think when we can do that, then we are just a kind of a light for other people.
Yeah.
So it's kind of selfish not to do that, you could say. Yeah, so tell me more about this, about what you're doing with magic, because it's really, just like...
So I haven't actually shared all this publicly yet, so I might as well do it here. So as I started with the Mustangs in the makeovers years ago, the Mustang makeovers. That's how I met Sharon, and ultimately how I met you. So they've brought so many amazing things into my life. That was back in 2010 when I did the first makeover. And for those that aren't aware, it's basically like a 100-day competition with a wild horse, and I did those for 3 years. That was just all I did, everything. And Magic is one of the Mustangs that I gentled and trained and showed in one of those competitions in 2012. Actually, she was 4,
right?
And she was, they all are so unique, as you know, but she was very, very aggressive in the beginning and continued to be. It was her way of, she was afraid, she was angry. There was a lot going on, but, not every wild horse that's afraid tries to attack you. Some just try to run away or climb at it, She took it out. She took it in her own hooves to take care of the situation and she was the first and really the only one I've had such a close relationship with that's been that way, except for her full sister, who we also adopted. She's really fascinating.
Right.
And both of these mares, now Magic and her full sister, Gabriella, both of them, we have photos of them from the wild, and they were always with their mother, even as older horses. Gabriella was in the wild until she was 7 years old.
Wow.
She went to many different herds, always their mother. And their mother was the lead mare. So what feels to be part of this is that, she was a matriarch and she was powerful. Yeah. And these are her daughters. Yeah. So she's raising them up to be a lead mare. Wow. And they're very protected, because their mama's not going to let anybody mess with them. And they stay tucked under her wing. And so Magic is coming up that way. And then all of a sudden, she's just ripped away from it. And like nothing is as it was. And of course, it's terrifying, but it's also like, what the heck? You know, like, wait a second. Like, don't you know who I am? Like, there's a little bit of that essence to her, which is incredible. Gabriella has it too. I love it. It's like she knows that she is this queen. And it's like, why are you not getting it? And so in the beginning, I did that. If you have 103 months basically, and I, you know, I didn't do anything mean, so to speak, but I definitely went ahead and rode her when she was still, I mean, I was hoping that it was going to help her see that I could help her. Like, you know, if I'm on her back and I'm helping guide her, then she can then see that I'm there to help, that kind of thing. Well, she just, I mean, she dealt with it, but she was never okay with it. And back then she would pin her ears if she heard me speak when I was riding her back then, and even wheel around and try to bite me. I mean, if she heard my voice. Now, I could ride her as long as I didn't say anything. So I would just like be silent. And this also went for touching her side. She didn't want me like so I just rode her, like I tried just not to touch her, and she did very well that way. I mean, considering, and we did the competition, and people, you have to adopt them at the end. There's an auction, and we had to win the bid on her, and people wanted to buy her because they thought that she was, they didn't know, you know, and so, but even then at the show, when they would come look at her, she's charging the bars, like trying to eat them. And that was actually the first time I ever felt like she might, you know, maybe like me a little bit, because she would let me in her stall. She didn't try to eat me. So anyway, this is 10 years ago. So I've, even back then when she was flipping the birdie to me, like every time she looked my way, I just couldn't help but just fall for her. I mean, for one thing, she's ridiculously beautiful, which didn't hurt. And there's just something in her that just was a matching picture for me inside. And so over the years, I felt like she didn't want to ride. So we stopped riding, and we started doing a lot of liberty. And she really loved the liberty, really loves positive reinforcement. I mean, who doesn't love a cookie, but especially magic? She's like, yes, I need to get paid, and it needs to be something I can eat, because that's how I want it to be. I mean, so she loved that kind of thing. And we did that for years. And, you know, I would then ride another one of the Mustangs, and she would be beside me, and we would do performances that way. And so we did that for many years. And then hey girls, Darlin, can y'all be kind of soft? And so then competition kind of faded away for multiple reasons, but one being we really needed to focus on I Am Heard and the Mustang Sanctuary, and that as an entity and what we do. And so I got away from the competition over the years and didn't do any of the makeovers. I haven't had the desire to do another like 3-month type makeover. But I've always had this vision that I've always seen that I wanted to do more with magic, and that if I could ever do like a makeover with her, which wouldn't really be a extreme Mustang makeover because that's 3 months, like, you know, we have 10 years. I want to do a 10-year makeover. And I would love to do, you know, to be able to do something with her, like that we have 10 years to do it. And be able to, because the thing I do love and loved about the makeovers was you got to do a freestyle and you got to totally make that up. It wasn't a pattern. It wasn't English or Western. Didn't matter what kind of tack. You could do liberty. You could ride. Like there were some prerequisites, and you had to do preliminaries to make the finals. But once you were in the finals, it was really like the most creative platform I've ever experienced. In that space of competition with horses, right? It's still a competition, but yet you have all this freedom of creativity. And so finally, a couple years back, the people that host the makeovers decided that they were going to do this competition that's
that's actually where they invite trainers back in to do a freestyle, and you get to do it with your own the Mustang you already like have as a partner. It's not a new horse. It's who they have to be a Mustang, but it's whoever, right?
Yeah.
So this was 2019 when they first launched, and I was like, oh my gosh, that was my idea. Like I did that. I planned that out, right? So I have to be invited, even though I'm totally haven't done these. I'm not even in their awareness. I haven't done these things in years. I don't know if they even think that I like showing anymore. Like, who knows what they think from what I write? Like, I don't know what anybody thinks. But and they send the letters out FedEx. Okay, they're these fancy like sign delivery, like fancy invitation. They're only inviting 8 people from all the trainers. Like, okay, so I'm watching the driveway. Like, oh, we have to. And actually, Sharon was on a Zoom call when this was happening, and she knows this story because I was like right after. And I'm watching the driveway. I'm waiting for my box. It has to come, and I'm slowly seeing people post pictures of their, congratulations. I'm one of the 8 that made them. Like, oh, I get no. Okay, so the day I find out that I'm not getting a letter was the first day that we went into our programs at the schools. So I'm driving down the road with Magic in the trailer to do a program, freestyle, you could call it, for 8 teenage girls at a middle school.
That's amazing.
And it was so bittersweet and so humbling.
Yeah.
So humbling to meet those. I mean, I was like level playing field. I'm like, I'm right there with you ladies. Like I've got new pubic hairs for the first time. I so don't know how to be in this body. Like, I still don't have boobs, and I'm just freaking out, and I don't know who I am, like, anymore. I didn't say all that to them, but the essence, like, the energy was in me, and it just took me to a place of, and I've always remembered that. I'm like, this is what I do now, right? Like, this is my freestyle, okay, in the backyards of schools. Like, but then over the next couple years, I was like, yeah, this is my freestyle, and that program has become one of the centerpieces of I Am Heard. It's part of what sustains us financially because we have a contract with communities and schools. So it's one of the reasons we've been able to even survive as a nonprofit. And it is the most meaningful thing I've ever done. And so because we go to the schools now 4 days a week during the school year, we're taking horses and other animals to the schools and doing these programs. So totally meant to be, and it needed my focus. If I had gotten that invitation, it would have been hard to have kept my focus on the school. But now the school programs are just here. Like, I don't have to think about it. They're just here. We're going to do them. They're on the schedule. It's going to happen. And I don't have to constantly, like, you know how you're in that creative place, and there's a lot of energy to be poured into the front end of creativity.